Oh, I know that sound. It's time for the Beer and News Report. Hi, and welcome to the Beer News Report. Cheers. Today's question: why is China so hell-bent on being the world's manufacturing center? What's in it for them? And more importantly, should we be worried or just impressed? Spoiler alert, it's probably both. So sit back, grab a beer, and maybe some Lego blocks so you can build something while we talk about manufacturing. You know, to get into the spirit, right? Yeah. Cheers. Now, to understand China's obsession with manufacturing, we have to go back to the end of World War II, when Stalin told China, you almost got conquered by Japan because you didn't build anything. Basically, Stalin was roasting China for not having any factories. That's like being told by Stalin that you need to work on your human rights record, right? At the time, China's main defense was just having a lot of people. Meanwhile, the Allies won because they could outbuild anyone. Tanks, planes, spam, you name it, we could build it. But then came Deng Xiaoping in 1978 who said, hey, what if we tried capitalism, but with rules? That brought on massive foreign investment and created special economic zones, or as I call them, factory Disneylands. And by foreign investment, I mean the United States, because we love a good deal, even if it comes with a side of geopolitical risk. Now, how did China and the United States become such cozy trading partners? Well, for that, let's bring in historian Sarah Payne from the U.S. Naval War College. She's like the Ken Burns of Pacific power politics.
We have not yet presented a count of this list. Under the Tsars, the Russians took from the Chinese sphere of influence territory exceeding U.S. east of the Mississippi. Think the Chinese didn't notice? Yes, they noticed. Mao has other gripes against the Russians. Stalin, the lead up to World War II, had made sure to set up the Chinese to fight Japan so that he wouldn't have to. So that leaves him just fighting Nazis, not Nazis and Japanese. And then Stalin takes Mongolia, which had formerly been a part of the Chinese sphere of influence. And then in the Korean War, he's more than happy to fight to the last Chinese. And then during the Chinese Civil War, the Russians tell Mao, oh, stop, Yangtze, you need to take a little breather here. Because he wants a divided China, like the divided Germany he has, and then the divided Korea he's going to get. You want to be surrounded by these little broken states around you if you're a continental power. So it's not surprising that the Sino-Soviet border war of 1969 breaks out during the Vietnam War. And the Russians come to us, the Americans, and say, is it okay if we nuke these people? And the United States says, no, there's no way it's okay to nuke these people. And Mao figures it out. The one that wants to nuke you, that's the primary adversary. So prior to that moment, the United States is the primary adversary of both Russia and China. Now with this, they're primary adversaries of each other. And this gives the United States the swing position of team up with A or team up with B. And the United States teamed up with China to overextend Russia in the Cold War because I'd always felt that the Soviets were the bigger threat in those days.
So China becomes the manufacturing king. Big deal, right? Japan did that in the 1980s, and their biggest export now is anime and nostalgia. But China took a different lesson. They said, if we make everything, nobody can mess with us. Because if they do, we make the stuff they need to mess with us. So it's kind of genius, right? It's like holding the world's supply chain hostage with a smile. For example, China dominates the rare earth elements, and they threatened to cut the supplies to the United States. And President Trump said, oh, no, you don't. If you do that, I'm going to hit you with 100% tariffs. That's basically two kids in a sandbox saying, if you take your toys, I'm taking the sand. Now, these rare earth elements, they go into everything. Phones, hard drives, Teslas, missiles, even those LED beer lights that you have at your local bar. Without them, we're back to flip phones and paper maps, and nobody wants that. So yeah, when China hinted at cutting off the supply, it wasn't about money, it was a warning shot. Like, don't test us, we literally build everything. So, the trade war, let's not forget about that. When the US put tariffs on Chinese products, China slapped back with tariffs on U.S. soybeans, which tanked prices faster than a bad ad at Super Bowl. They used to buy about 1/3 of our soybeans. Now, 0. So if you're a soybean farmer, you've basically been ghosted by 1.4 billion people. But back to these rare earths. What are they? Why are they rare? Actually, there's more cerium in the Earth's crust than copper. There's more ytterbium than tin. Basically, they're everywhere except in our supply chain. Now, the name comes from the 1700s when scientists found them in a Swedish town called Jörby. It sounds like a craft beer, huh? Anyways, they called the mineral ytterbite, and since it looked rare back then, the name just kind of stuck. So yeah, fake news was even going on back in the 1700s. Now, we could mine them here in the US, and in fact we do, but China does it so cheap that we can't compete, so our mining's gone way down. It's minimal. But now that they've hinted of limiting exports, American mining stocks have doubled. And of course, I didn't buy any. Yeah, cheers. Here's the bigger idea. China thinks the world's manufacturing is the ultimate defense strategy. Because if everyone depends on you, nobody wants to blow you up. It's kind of like being the only guy at a party who brought a beer keg. Nobody's going to start a fight with you. But why are they worried about us attacking them in the first place? Well, let's take a look.
What do we know about this potential invasion? Actually, I mean, we know there's intent, but is there actually going to be delivery?
We know from the CIA annual threat assessment that it says Chairman Xi has told the People's Liberation Army to be ready, completely ready for an invasion of Taiwan by 2027.
Why is that significant? 27, why would he wait?
Because they're rebuilding the military.
Right.
And I think one of the other things that's not lost on Xi and his colleagues in Beijing is the much vaunted Russian military has been tremendously embarrassed in the Ukraine. So while he's been modernising the Chinese military and believing they're making good progress, I think they're taking stock. Putin thought that his defence minister, Choibo, had redeveloped the Russian military. It didn't happen. They are really battling, excuse the pun, really, really hard around Bakhmut and the Ukraine at the moment.
So what if China does attack Taiwan? Would the United States come to its rescue? Well, let's hear what Sarah Payne has to say about it.
If you look at Taiwan, okay, maybe China can take it. It may have to leave it at glowing embers. That lovely chip foundry that everyone cares about, I imagine, would be the first casualty of that war. That will be blown and be gone. There's no way you'll capture that intact. And then everybody else is going to be terrified of this, and they're going to do it's not blockade in our day. It's rather sanctions of saying, okay, if you're not going to play nice, we're not going to trade with you. You're going to have a massive timeout from the global order. And China is very trade reliant. And so, okay.
It's precisely because it has such a dominant position in trade that it would be difficult to coordinate a coalition against them.
Why?
If the entire world benefits more from trading with them, the United States, there's more volume of trade with China than the United States globally, then it would be difficult to coordinate a coalition to say, look, you got to stop trading with the person you're trading most with.
I think the story is on sanctions. They don't have to be leak proof. All you're doing is if you can knock off 1 or 2 percentages points of Chinese growth just because some people are sanctioning like war material, that would be a very likely thing. That after Taiwan, maybe you're trading with China, but you're not doing certain categories of war material with them. The cumulative effects of doing that to a country over generations is the difference between North and South Korea. It adds right up.
So maybe Taiwan is just saber rattling. Or maybe China is hinting one way but thinking of something else. Let's hear what Sarah Payne has to say.
It's not the question of whether the Xi-Putin bromance is going to end, it's when. And I assure you the Chinese will pick the moment that is least convenient for Putin. Putin is dumping all his ordnance on Ukraine, his Cold War stockpile. He is leaving Siberia wide open to Chinese predations. And I believe Siberia has precisely the resources that China covets on lands the Tsars stole. And I think there's a big body of water out there called Lake Baikal. It's 20% of the world's surface freshwater. China is chronically short of fresh water in North China. Baikal is the only fix, and I think it's flat enough that you could pipe it around.
You think they'd actually go to war about it, or would they just negotiate?
I bet it'll be negotiation. Of just you get them in the corner and say, "Okay, buddy."
It makes you think, doesn't it? What's China's next move? Are the tariffs working? And why do I suddenly want another beer? Well, I don't have answers to the first 2 questions, but I do have a drink. Cheers. Well, you can see my beer is almost empty, and that means I'm at the end of the show. So, today I am drinking the Big 2.0, and this is by Oso Brewing Company. And this is a wheat beer with orange peel and Voss Quebec yeast. Now, I don't know that yeast from penicillin, But this beer is pretty good. I think you should give it a try. Now, if you liked my show, hit that like button. If you want to subscribe to see more, hit the subscribe button and don't forget the bell so that you don't miss the next round. Until next time, keep your beer cold and your interest hot. Cheers.